Participants online. There are Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I welcome one and all for the next grand round session, and this is a unique session today. We all are so engrossed in our work of medical practice that we forget how to think beyond medicine and how to live beyond medicine. Though I'm talking this, I don't implement it myself. So just to just to become a better living person and enjoying life to the more other extent also apart from medicine, also having a more clarity of thought that we are in this body in a temporary form. So one day we are going to die. And when we listen to patients' complaints, About the will, Dr. Bharat Gupta had volunteered. He's a senior ENT surgeon. All of you must be knowing him. He had volunteered to talk on this topic. It was his passion to speak on this topic. So it is his will to talk on the will. I invite Dr. Bharat Gupta to start his session.
Hi, everybody. Can you just put it up? And I'm sorry for little disturbance. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Kotak and Pinky for Dr. Kotak suggested that we should have not always the medical lectures. We should have some lectures jara hatke. So because of that, I thought I will talk on the subject which people don't like to even talk, or they feel very difficult. Let me start with something. जब भी मैंने कभी किसी से, whether individually, whether in a group or in a larger group, thought of talking, I want to talk on will, the first reaction comes is, ये crazy हो गया है, loony हो गया है. He's lost his balance now. So what happens is, मेरे को हमारे एक आजकल के ग्रेट कवि सम्राट, हिंदी के कवि सम्राट की कविता याद आ जाती है. कोई पागल, कोई दीवाना कहता है, कोई पागल समझता है, मगर मेरे दिल की दर्द तो मेरा दिल ही समझता है. तो ये शायद आप ये समझ लीजिए कि ये मेरे दिल में रहा है हमेशा से कि why we are so ignorant about this subject. In our country, unfortunately, it is considered as a taboo. Parents do not talk to children, husband do not talk about it to wife. And ultimately what happened, let me tell you, that if you take up large number of court cases, they are family dispute. Second, LIC has got largest collection of unclaimed insurance policies. So really, it's very unfortunate that from the start of our life, we want to, we start our life and start creating assets. Why we create assets? So that our spouse and our children can maintain the same standard of life when we are no more. But unfortunately, if we don't take care of it in a proper way, you are not sure whether it will go in some wrong hands. So reason for this talk today is trying to make it simple and easier. As you know, art of living is a subject. I'm not going to touch on that at all. Art of living, what it means? It means that they try to make you learn the way to live a very healthy, happy life till your end and go gracefully. So you live a graceful life. Similarly, the subject I have taken, art of dying, is basically to throw light so that you, when you go from this world, you go with fulfilling all your wishes, and hence you go peaceful and, shall we say, gracefully again, that you die gracefully. So this is basically the reason of my talk today. Friends, sorry. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it is a taboo in our country. Nobody wants to talk about it. So what are the excuses given? Usual excuse given is first, अरे यार, मैं तो अभी, I am very young. अभी तो बहुत time. Second one will say, no, I think I don't have much assets to think about it. I'm really very sorry, but I don't have assets. Another one will say, well, I've got only one child. So ultimately all belongs to him or her. So therefore, I need not to enter into this. The other excuse which I want to make, but it is too much hassle to go about. Then, yeah, I will make it later. I want to do it, but I will make it later. I promise you I will do it. So these are the kind of excuses I come across in all spectrum of life. Through this talk, I will try to clear some of the excuses which people take and they need not to take anymore. When I think of will itself, few questions run in our mind. One is why? Why there is will? Why I should have a will? Second, when I should have a will? Third, how should I make a will? How should I store it? And are there any types of will? So you will be surprised that, yes, first thing I will touch upon is types of will, because then the other things will follow properly. How many of you know about will? That's fantastic. Good number here. How many of you know about living will? Yet again, I'm very glad. जिनको इस लेक्चर की जरूरत नहीं थी नहीं और भी लोग हैं on the Zoom, so it's okay. And how many of you?
Some people, an indication to उनको really important बात है तो अभी समझे नहीं.
समझ जाएंगे आज के बाद, आप लोग समझाएंगे. So let us talk first about living. Living will is a very important aspect, because most of us must be thinking, अरे वो जो will बनानी है ना, so the will which is my desire or my wishes to be fulfilled when I am no more. That is the real will. Living will is the desire which you want to be pursued or fulfilled during the period when you are alive but uncommunicated. You are unable to communicate, but you have got certain desire and you want to fulfill. What are such conditions can be? A sudden heart attack, sudden brain attack, road accident. You are suddenly rushed to a hospital. You are very serious, critical. So the resuscitation measure starts. You are put on venti, ICU, and the expenses start in the family. Everybody is not insured. So though there is a large amount of expenditure which this health service takes place. Unfortunately, I know certain people whose family have to sell their ornaments and even home to sustain somebody in the ICU and hospital. This is a very tragic situation. The person who created assets is taking away the assets which were not required. He or she wanted it to be for the remaining people, but unfortunately he is only eating it up. So that is one thing. Then we get some prolonged illnesses where you have renal failure, you have got liver failure, you have got cancer. The treatments are very costly and unaffordable, and therefore the home all resources get drained. This is again can be looked into in a different way. Third is what type of funeral you want after you are no more. So you can mention that I want grand funeral going on for 40 days, 30 days, or 13 days as per Hindu culture, or you want to have a very simple, straightforward electrical or diesel funeral, and then only 24, 48 hours of sadness in the house. A Pandit does puja and that's the end of it. Everybody get on with their work. That is all. Now, when we talk about this stay in ICU for any condition or prolonged illnesses, you can mention that one, I do not resuscitate. Now, if this is written, do not resuscitate, all healthcare services will honor it. There will not be any dispute. Second, you can also write down if in ICU and condition is not improving, stop after 5 days, 7 days, 10 days. Whatever your insurance cover is there, you just take those number of days and they say after that day, switch off. This is not euthanasia, by the way. Euthanasia is when you are conscious and asking for death. That is not. You are uncommunicable. So that's the reason why you can mention number of days you want to give. Like again, cancer and prolonged illnesses. Do you want to undergo any treatment? Royal Marsden Hospital chief, when he retired, that is the hospital which served maximum number of cancer patients in London or England. When he retired and he was asked, what will you like? He said, well, if I get cancer, just allow me to go peacefully, make me pain-free so that I can enjoy my gin and tonic in the afternoon and whiskeys at night. So I don't want to do anything with any one of you. The doctors, please, thank you very much. So this is what is the way you can go. And the last in this living, we must think about what kind of life your spouse should live after you are no more. Now, there are two aspects of it. One is people who are living abroad or whose children are abroad. See, what happens is that if you are abroad, especially in Middle East, the moment earning member who dies, the family visa is finished and they have to return back home. When they come home, especially for females and children, when they come home, they bring a lot of assets, but unfortunately, they cannot call the shot. Either their own parents or the husband's parents. They say, no, you come and live with us, and the total lifestyle change. She has got no independence left, neither regarding herself, her own life, nor the life of children. If you write that no such compulsion, you can choose a city and buy the flat or property and start your life on your own. And you are the deciding factors whom you will like to come to your house. So that independence you can allow her that. Second point here is that I know a gynecologist in Baroda. Up to age 74, she was not allowed by her husband to go for mountaineering, deep sea diving, any such activities. I don't know. He just was not very cooperative on that. But after his death, she started doing all these activities. And today she is a regional representative of that area in these activities. So I think it is very nice if you can live this kind of independent life afterward. Another example is a laughter club in Juhu. In this laughter club, two people met. One male, one female. Both have got children, but both are widow. They suddenly started liking each other's company. And therefore, they developed attraction to each other. They started going out for coffee and candlelight dinners. Their children objected also, but they didn't care. So today, for last 7 years, they are living a very common life, having support for each other. It is the emotional support which is required more than financial or any other support. So therefore, they have towards the end, this guy or this girl is going to look after each other. So this is the way one want. I feel one should want the spouse to live. So this is all about the living. Now we come to the real will. When we come to the real will, you know, again, oh my God, I will have to search for an attorney or a lawyer. I will have to probably ask my CA. and then sit down with them, many hours of discussions and whatnot. And at the end of it, then we'll all go to the registrar office or the court and then waste time along with witnesses. And no such thing. I will explain to you how you can just keep it aside. Simply on a Sunday, you can make these wills in your own writing desk or in your own dining table on A4 size papers. And I will tell you how it will be authentic all the time. You need not to see a face of any such people, and you need not to waste time. Now, when you start writing the will, first of all, take A4 size paper, sit down and decide whether you want to write joint will or you want to write separate will. I prefer joint will. And the reason I started about this will was at age 43, when I was in Bahrain, there was Kuwait crisis. So because of the crisis, I could send my wife and children to Bombay, but I had to stay back as part of essential services. So reality was we had no work in the hospital. Bahrain was a naval base, so there was always a target from Saddam Hussein side. So what used to happen? Whole day amongst the doctors, we used to make groups and we used to discuss prophecies of Nostradamus. When is third war going to start? Is it going? It has it started? Then there was a CNN पे सुनते रहते थे और वहां से शुरू हुआ कि oh, he is ready for chemical warfare. No, we didn't have masks. So at night, I suddenly heard one day, Gupta ji, suddenly chemical warfare हो गया और तुम सोते सोते मर गए, तो तुम your wife will not know what are your assets. Your children will not know. And then suddenly you're no more. So at that time, I decided that when my wife come back, if I'm alive, then we will make our first will. And that's how we started making our will. It was the most pathetic will we ever made ourselves. Just wrote down assets. So when we talk of assets, please consider wife and children are your assets. They are not liabilities. Make sure that never treat them as liability. They are your assets. During your formative years, when you were struggling, they were the one who made sure that you go well dressed, well fed, and when you come back, you can relax and live a life together. So they are your maximum best assets. Second are the assets which you either inherit or you create yourself. That can be divided into two, either mobile or fixed. Fixed are like properties, land, or if you have got any organization, company you have created. So those will come under that category. Rest like your bank accounts, FDs, stock and shares, gold, even very precious household items. All these you should mention in your assets. After making the list of assets, now you start writing. Date, the will of so and so. So you start name, then put your Aadhaar number and PAN card. And if it is joint, and Mrs. So and so, name, Aadhaar, and so. And then you have to write your wishes that we are making this will today, fully conscious, under no pressure, and we are in good mental health state. And then you write your distribution. So next part of the will is distribution. So first you write who will be the inheritors. उनका भी नाम लिखिए, Aadhaar, PAN number, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever are there. After writing those, you start the distribution. Now distribution is by Indian law, as soon as the one dies, all goes to spouse. Unless you want to make a change, you want to give her 90% or him 90% and 10% you want to keep and do something else. That is a different story. But otherwise, 100% is given to the living spouse. Second, if you both are no more, then it is distributed amongst children. Amongst children also, you can divide into 50-50, or the person who looked, or the son who looked after you more, you can give more, and the son who was nalayak, you give him less. Make sure even the most nalayak son, you must give something because he is your son. A son or daughter, they are yours. They should never feel they were never yours. Third, I personally feel that apart from these two guys, there are other people who also may deserve in life. Like the one, majority of us are now in a state where we are here and our children are abroad. So somebody else was looking after you during your terminal stages or during your old age. That fellow deserves some portion of your, if you feel, yes, you must 1%, 2%, 5%, what you want. Then there are temples or churches you have been visiting during your lifetime, you have been religiously for, you can give something to churches, to religious activities. Third, to the organizations like orphanage, old people's home, and any other you can think about. So this way what happens is, these wishes are also finished. Now we come to, after having done all this, we come to a state. So I've covered when to write the will, as early as you start making assets. How to write a will, I have also covered. Type of will, I have also covered. Now the question comes, how to make it authentic. All these pages, if there are few things. One is that in India, it is not necessary or compulsory to register a will. You can dispute amongst us, but this is the fact. I have talked to various lawyers and principal of law schools, and the fact is that you need not register. At present, now government has come out that in case you want to make sure that it is authentic will, you can even go to a gazetted officer or a notary. That's good enough. You need not to waste time with all the other formalities. Second is, I am going to make it more authentic on top of that. Instead of writing a will and storing in your computer, it is better you make handwritten wills. Somebody can copy your signature, but somebody cannot copy the whole content. So if you have made it handwritten will, then very sure that it is your will. Now, as we go, when we buy or sell a property, what we do, each page we sign. So before signing, you do one thing, make a Xerox copy of it. So you have got one set, original, and one Xerox. Treat both of them as original. Sign each and every paper, put your PAN and Aadhaar number along with it. On the last page, you take the signatures and the first is whose will it is, inheritors. If the child is under 18, then guardian, then witnesses, and if there is executor, any. So in sub ka aapko 2 minutes. Name, Aadhaar number, PAN number, address. This is all of each person of them. Witnesses should not be knowing the content of the will. Witnesses are there to just witness you. Now, after making all this, originally get signed from everyone, 2 copies. And take one A4 size paper If it is single, single, or if it is joint, then two, both of you should sign boldly on A456. Put your name, Aadhaar, and PAN. Fold it into two. But after cutting it, that means you've got one half of your sign here, one half of your signature here. This you put in one envelope with the handwritten, and this another one in that type. You store one at your home, other store in your bank locker if you like. So, and living will should be known to everybody, by the way. Otherwise, it will be staying in locker and you will be struggling in the hospitals. So make sure the living will is known to others, everyone. And then when the will is to be opened, these two papers should match. If these match, then only it is the original will. Then there's no contest about it. And then of course, then when you're no more left, leave it to God. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for a very descriptive. Yes, sir.
Can I make one?
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
A very important topic, and generally neglected by people. Fear of death is always there, and there is a misconception in people's mind that if you make a will, probably you're looking forward to death in the near future. That is kind of misconception they have. So, my advocate made me do my first will at the age of 44. Wow. No, we were traveling abroad, myself and my wife both, and my children were small. The nursing home had just started. So I was told that you must make a will and don't go without that. He says, whatever it is, my advocate. And he says, whatever it is, you have good people around, your family members are good, even then the will has to be there. That's something. And then every few years it is being revised. Now, most important thing is people in other countries who are very open about the wills, etc. Especially children abroad who are settled there, they come and ask parents here, "Tumi will banawla ka?" The parents get furious. They say, "यहाँ रहते नहीं है, हमारी देखभाल करते नहीं है, और अपने को इतना पैसा मिलने वाला है पूछते." Third thing, important thing is, one reluctance for making a will is, if I make a will now, and if I have more than one child, the fight between the child और कुरबुर जो कुछ होने वाला है, वो मेरे सामने हो जाएगा, मुझे हैरान तो बाद में तुम कुछ करने का करो, मैं will नहीं बनाता. That is one of the very common reason why people don't make will. I've talked to some people and they say की काय भांडणं व्हायची ते नंतर होते माझ्या डोळ्यासमोर नको, मला कटकट नको, याला 100 रुपये जास्त दिले 100. That is a very, very genuine reason why people don't make will. They would want to know. आपको लगता है आपके बच्चों को पता नहीं आपकी will का?
Sir said first will made in 1940. How many have made so far?
Huh?
At the age of 40. At the age of 40. Yeah, sorry. 3 revisions at the age of 40. So everybody knows that we all are going to die one day. But then when we are alive, let's enjoy life. And we all have been known Dr. Pankaj Joshi for his PJ. Today we'll listen from him. And the best part is at the age of 64, after undergoing an angioplasty 2 years ago, he took this trip to Ladakh and he thoroughly enjoyed it. And looking at him, we all get inspired. So over to Dr. Pankaj Joshi, who's a senior surgeon at Jupiter Hospital.
Thank you for your kind words, Dr. Pinky. Dr. Bharat Gupta's last example revived memories of the old Hindi films when the smugglers would come in a boat and they would have half a ton note with them. And the guy who has to receive the smuggled goods would have the other half and they would match. And if they matched properly, yes, this is the right party to whom we have to give. Correct, no? Many movies have that. Okay. So, Ladakh on bike. It was on a Saturday evening in January 2022 when I and a couple of my friends were sitting over a couple of drinks, note the word couple, and we were discussing where to go for our holidays next, etc. So one of them said that it's my one item on the bucket list is to go through Ladakh on a bike tour. I said, that's very fine. All of us may not be able to go, but at least 3 out of the 7 of us can go. So let's plan it. We can always go elsewhere with the other people. So myself, the guy, I will call him K, and the other guy who was not there that day, I will call him G. So P, K, and G, we discussed and all of us became ready. Now, since there were 3 of us, nobody else home could object. Unfortunately, K started getting some vertigo post-COVID or something of that sort. He had to drop out. And G had another issue with his computer disk crashing, and he had to come back and file some sales tax returns, etc. So he said, in that short term, I cannot recreate that data and submit. So I will also drop out. So that left only me. And since initial objections were not taken by anybody, no more objections could be taken, and I was in line for it. The preparations for this, the trip was to take place in July. Fly on the 1st of July to Srinagar and start on the bike tour on the 2nd of July. The preparations began almost 2 months in advance because I had never been on such a tour, or if you will call it an expedition, and you have to buy a lot of biking gear to be ready. So one by one, I started buying things, and there is a lot of things to be bought. In fact, all this gear cost me more than the tour itself. The 9-day tour over 1700 kilometers cost me 45,000, and this gear cost me 50,000. So I will have to do a few more trips to vasolify this initial expenditure. So after all these preparations, another part of the preparation was to go on some long bike tours around Mumbai, Thane. Unfortunately, I was able to do just one of 200 kilometers return trip. And that was on this good flat highways roads, nothing like what was supposed to be in Ladakh. Anyway, 200 kilometers also told me that what is doable and what is not doable. The most important thing and take home message for me through that trip was that after about 4 to 6 hours in the saddle, I didn't have backache or body ache or anything. So that was good. So 1st of July, I flew into Srinagar, and that day we were supposed to press spacebar for the next slide. Arrow, up, down, right. Right arrow not working. Okay. So the first day I reached Srinagar in the morning. We had all to check in to a houseboat. Now from Mumbai, I was the only one. I didn't know who else was there. Upon landing up there and checking into the houseboat, I found out there were about 18 other people. Surprisingly, all of them were from Hyderabad. There was a group of 9 people who were in their 30s and another group who were in their 50s, 9 other people. That group of 50s would often come to Lonavala on bikes from Hyderabad for holidays. So they were real biking enthusiasts. So that made a group of 19 for us. In the evening in Srinagar, we were supposed to get our bikes late in the evening. And after darkness had fallen, we were all taken to the ground where our bikes were parked. The first one that you see is my bike. It's a Himalayan Royal Enfield 411cc bike. I owned from December 2019 a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. So this is supposed to be a mountain bike, all-terrain bike, adventure bike, call it what you may. Bikes are of different types. There are those known as cruisers, where you can go on a long trip where your stance is like this. Your arms are horizontal and you are not stooping. Okay, so this is supposed to be a comfortable stance for a long ride. So this was something of that sort. In these adventure bikes, the suspension is very good and therefore you don't get much jerks. Otherwise, the suspension in the other bikes which are meant for flat terrain is hard and those jerks can give you a backache. Most of the bikes were Himalayan. Most of us had chosen the Himalayan bike. And luckily for us, they were almost brand new. My bike had just done about 2,700 kilometers when I took it. Now the tour operator takes charge from the time you are given the bike till the end. Okay, the end can depend on you. I will tell you a little about it a little later. So he provides you with a bike. He pays the rent to the company which is giving out the bikes on rent. The petrol is looked after by him. All the bookings on the way, be it hotel, tents, etc., are looked after by them. The food, breakfast in the morning and dinner at night is looked after by him. Lunch is on your own because you may stop wherever you want on the way and have whatever you want. So lunch is on you. And the route was supposed to start at Srinagar and end at Manali. From Manali, he offered us to drop us all the way to Delhi by bus. So those people who wanted to catch a flight from Chandigarh would go on their own from Manali to Chandigarh, catch a flight and go back. And those who wanted to proceed to Delhi could proceed to Delhi. So this cost me about 45,000. 50,000 was the initial cost of the accessories. Now on this tour, what you see here is a guy called Sten. Sten Singh is a very common name amongst Ladakhis. And he is the marshal. He is the guy who's supposed to ride in the front. Nobody is supposed to overtake him. During the ride, you are supposed to maintain a speed limit. Not that everybody and not every time everybody could observe it, because sometimes the roads were so good, contrary to what normally one has heard so far, that you would go even 100 plus 110. But generally around 60 was the average speed, 60 to 80. So he is the leader. Nobody is supposed to overtake him. Then there are two more guys. All our luggage is put into a big pickup truck. So Isuzu D-Max was the truck which was provided for 19 of us. There was a driver and there was a mechanic who would look after the bike should they develop any problems. So there were three of them and a truck with our saman. This guy is Sten. These other two guys, the one on the left is Tani, tall fellow, Ladakhi, and he was the driver of the truck. And on the right is a guy who called himself Rambo. Okay, basically he is Mohammedan from Delhi, works in his uncle's garage. And during the lean period, or rather the season in Ladakh, he would come to Ladakh and be the mechanic for these touring companies and earn some little more than what he would normally earn. Initially, I had also thought of transporting my bike, but then that was a hassle because from here I might be able to arrange for an easy transfer all the way to Srinagar. But this thing ended at Manali. So from Manali, pickup might become difficult. And then I would have to ride down all the way to Chandigarh or Delhi, maintain that time frame in which I have to hand over my bike to the transporter. I may be late or something like that. So I decided not to take my bike. And of course, the Himalayan is a much better bike to go in this. The days routine was like this. After we got up, the first thing we did was to fill up the petrol. So once our group or any other group for that matter would reach the petrol pump, everybody else would be kept aside, and every guy of this group would get his petrol tank filled up, and then we would set out. Now, our route was from Srinagar to Manali. Perhaps the more common route is Manali to Leh. People do Manali to Leh only and not even proceed to Srinagar. I think better is to go from Srinagar, because Srinagar is at a height of around 5,000 feet. The first stop, Kargil, is at 7,000. The next stop, Leh, is around 9,000 feet. So you get 2-3 days time for acclimatization. And from Manali, if you start, suddenly you are ascending the mountain. Nowadays, the Atal Tunnel is there, but previously you had to go through the pass, and you land up at the camp, which is at a much higher altitude than Manali. And therefore, there was a higher chance of developing altitude sickness. That was the one thing that I was afraid of, altitude sickness, because it can happen to anybody, even to the most fit of all people. Fitness is required on this trip, but not necessarily a very high level of fitness. Now, I had not been doing anything for years on end till COVID started, and the government told everybody about the age of 55, sit at home. And Dr. Pinky also told me, now you sit at home. So I sat for 9 months. Yeah, it was on your urging and your suggestion. I took up the suggestion. I'm very happy that you gave me that suggestion. I'm seriously happy. I'm seriously happy that you gave the suggestion. And I was able to sit at home without any guilt, you know. So 9 months I sat at home, and obviously now just sitting at home, those days people didn't even come out of their doors. Those were the days. So I started to take a walk in the evenings in the society, and that was very good, because that was in 2020, 2 years before the trip. And over 2 years, the walking improved. The gym, which was closed in our society, that started. I also started going to the gym 2-3 days a week, and it was a good workout on a daily basis. And if not fit, I was certainly not unfit. That's yours truly. After filling up the petrol, waiting for everyone else to get ready. So the first day was from Srinagar to Kargil. And the first important place to cross was the Zojila Pass, which is the entry into Ladakh. Just before Zojila Pass is Baltal, which is the base camp for Amarnath Yatra. Amarnath Yatra had already started, and the traffic was so much that police would not allow everybody to set out at the same time. So we were advised to start early off in the morning so that we could cross the pass and enter into Ladakh before the main traffic started. 3 or 4 days after we crossed this point, there was a cloud burst and there was heavy flooding, and about 30-35 people died in that. Luckily, we escaped that. So on the way to Kargil, first we come to a place called Dras. Okay. And Dras is supposed to be the second coldest place on the planet, reaching temperatures up to -40 and all. I really doubt it. I'm sure there are much more colder places. Yakutia in Siberia is supposed to reach temperatures of -72 degrees Celsius. -80, okay. So Alaska, some places reach -80. Anyway, in the references which I have seen, not for this talk, but otherwise, Yakutia in Siberia is supposed, and if it is -40 or 50, then schools open. So life over there is like that. Now, one misconception which everybody gives and the myths about Ladakh is you get Maggie, Maggie, and Maggie only. So I don't really like Maggie, certainly not on a daily basis. And to my pleasant surprise, I found that everywhere I got lovely food, absolutely veg, or non-veg, just look at the quality of the fulkas, the rotis. They are so fluffy and hot, tasty, and steaming food was available at every stop. This is having a lunch at Dras. After Dras, before Kargil, we came upon the Kargil War Memorial, which commemorates the lives of the soldiers, or rather the soldiers who lost their lives in the Kargil War in 1999. It is a thing to be seen. The entrance to the memorial says, when you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. Hats off. So end of day one, as you can see, down here, 212.8 kilometers. That was the first day's ride. And this odometer reads 2,699. Subtract 212 kilometers and you know how much the bike had ridden before I took it over. Kargil was really hot, almost 34. And the fan wouldn't work in the hotel. So there were 3 of us sharing the room, 2 brothers and myself. They made their way to some other room where the fan was working. I was left and I was only in a shorts with nothing on top and the door open and mosquitoes to give me company. So contrary to what one may think, Ladakh is also very hot, quite a few days in the year. This is all geared up. In the gear, from bottom to top, one has to have good riding shoes. They should be above ankle, not up to the knee, I would say, because then it becomes very difficult to put them on and remove them. So above ankle, easily removable and waterproof they should be. Inside the shoes, I was lucky enough to get good quality waterproof socks, 1 pair costing 2,500. Yonex is one company in India which manufactures all these gears, and they are very good quality gears. So these socks I was wearing some days, not every day. The reason being that at places, if you are late in the day, the snow melts, and then these streams, the small rivulets, become torrents by the time you reach over there at 12 or 1 in the afternoon, and it becomes difficult to cross them. So it is always necessary to set out early in the morning, and I'm going to show you a photograph where even a car cannot cross. Okay. In fact, we had a video which I have not put in here from our group leader saying that we may not be able to do one particular destination because there was a lot of water in the stream and cars were being swept away and people had to extricate those cars and help those people who were trapped inside. So socks inside. Now you have a riding pant and a riding jacket. These are essentially perforated material, which is very resistant to scratches. So when you fall down, the material doesn't tear. Number one. Number two, it has got padding inside, which is known as armor. So in a jacket, the armor is on right and left in the front of the chest, on the shoulders. There's a big piece at the back. In the pants, there is a shin guard, a knee guard, lateral thigh guards, and hip guards. So I've not fallen so far so to find out how good those things are, but people say they are very good and they really protect you from injuries. Then you have to wear gloves, which I'm not wearing, and you have to carry 2 pairs of gloves. One is for routine riding on normal days, and one is for riding on the colder areas and colder days, which have to be really snowproof. Those gloves are very tough to put on and remove also. Removal is easy, but very tough to put on. I'll tell you where it is very tough to put on later on. And obviously a helmet. Now, inside the helmet, you have to wear what is known as a balaclava, because there is a lot of dust which may be blowing into your eyes and all. So the balaclava protects everything. It just exposes your eyes and the nose. So that's about the gear. On the way, we came up with this lovely Buddha. Buddhism and facets of Buddhism had already started on the way. This was carved on the side of a stone and the entrance was blocked by this doorway. This is the Maitreya statue. That's my bike home. Shining and ready. Then you can see a bag on the tank, on the petrol tank. This is known as a tank bag. So essentially it is just a bag like any backpack, but it has this straps, 4 straps which go down the side of the tank and which has strong magnets in it. So the bag gets attached to the tank and you can keep easily retrievable things over there. You can even keep in your phone in the outermost pocket, which has a plastic lining. So you can see where you are going, etc. for your navigation. And on the back, as you notice, you have to be ready for any eventuality on the way. It might suddenly rain. It might suddenly become cold. So this jacket which we wear has 2 more linings if you want to attach. One is a waterproof lining, which protects you from the rain, and the other is a thermal lining to keep away the cold. This is a yak, as these taxidermists would preserve them. And this is the body and the stuffed body of the yak. And it is surprising to see it is a huge animal. What we get to see are not such grown specimens, but a yak as big as this could be a very dangerous animal also. However, they are domesticated and are used by the local people. We didn't see any people using the yaks, maybe in the interior, yes. Again, some good food, yummy chicken. Now, the quality of the fulka is evident out here. So, once we set out, Ladakh started in its pristine glory. It's a very, very different landscape. It's all rocky, hilly, no greenery. The rock, all the Himalayas are young mountains, so the rock is not very hard there. It is soft. And after Joshimath, everybody knows it. So there would be a lot of sand also. And there would be huge boulders perched on very small support. And you might think they are going to fall down. I'm sure they must be falling down. Luckily, it doesn't receive much rain. But during the rains, if it rains very heavily, some of these boulders could come down. This is the second day ending, 227 kilometers, Kargil to Leh. Before we reached Leh, there was a place called Magnetic Hill, where supposedly vehicles go upward against the slope, even if they are not turned on. However, we didn't see any of that sort of phenomenon happening, and we didn't stop there for long. Now in Leh, we were accommodated in a hotel which was still under construction. The rooms did not have room numbers yet. So if we wanted to call for room service, if there was any, then we would not know which room number to quote. Okay. So here you can see there are 2 WCs side by side. And to me, initially it came as a surprise. But later on, I could understand that they were going to construct cabins around this and segregate it. So there were quite a few surprises like this at some places. One more will come on the way. Yes. So this was in Leh, the evening when we reached. I checked my SPO2, it was 78. Normally it is 96, 97 here in Mumbai. And I started experiencing a little tiredness in Leh, because now we are at 9,000 feet. So while climbing stairs and all, plus I still had those riding boots on, and they are pretty heavy also. So started experiencing, what height can be like. Okay. I had carried acetazolamide. I didn't start it before I started the trip. People had told me, you start here in Mumbai itself. I'll see what will happen. From Leh, the next day, we were supposed to go to Pangong Tso, TSO. TSO, Tso, is, it means lake. So it's Pangong Lake. Just like Nathula, Zojila, Kardungla, La is a pass. So it is named after a village by the name of Khardung in its vicinity. So we were supposed to go to Khardungla, which is around 18,000 feet. Here it says 17,982 feet. I have a medal here which says 18,382 or something. Okay. So anyway, it's around 18,000 feet. That's high enough. We were strictly instructed not to stay here for more than 10 minutes. A week before me, another friend of mine had been through the same route, and there was a lot of crowd out there. He had messaged me from there that there is a traffic jam. Even if we don't want to wait here for photographs, we can't get through. And while in Leh, when we were talking to the organizer, he was telling us that from beginning of May till around August, they were expecting around 15 lakh visitors. But by the time we reached beginning of July, already 11 lakh visitors had arrived in Leh. Luckily for us, by the time we reached Leh, a lot of crowd had left. So we didn't experience too much of traffic jams, etc. So out here, obviously, one has to get down for the picture. One has to remove the gloves to operate your camera. Here, I felt significantly tired. Getting onto the bike was a big problem. First of all, you had parked the bike in a slanting position on the side step. With certain things on the back, it was difficult to raise your foot and swing it over to the other side to sit. And the soil is so soft, the side stand, it digs into the ground. So the bike gets more and more tilted. So I had to ask somebody for help to put it on the center stand, get onto the footrest on my side, climb onto the bike standing, and then put the leg on the other side. And when I wanted to put on the gloves, it was a big effort. Putting on gloves was very, very tiring. So I'm sure I didn't spend more than 10 minutes out there and then rush downhill to the other side. 3,000 feet at least I must have gone down, and then rested over there for lunch. And from there, we were supposed to go to Pangong Tso. Beautiful place, absolutely beautiful, where Three Idiots, the last sequences were shot. And the water changes its color at various times and from various angles. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's green, sometimes it's gray. So it was an absolutely 25% of the lake is on Indian side and 75% of the lake is on the Chinese side. The beach was pretty crowded, lots of vehicles there. In fact, there are tent township over there. You can see certain things in the background. And we also were quite far away from the lake in our tents. Lovely pictures place, sunset at Pangong. And suddenly the color would change once the sun had set to grayish. This was at around 4:30 in the morning, sunrise. And little while after, so this is the famous Three Idiots seats, 40 seats as I call them. And these three guys are from our group. Another hotel, another mystery. Now we are supposed to use these locks. I don't know why it is a detachable loop, you know. So the first time I thought I had broken the lock, but then I saw that all locks were like this. I don't know, to prevent people from getting locked, maybe you just remove that upper piece and keep it in your pocket or something of that sort. We met on the way this guy, he's Kaushik from Marol. For the last 2.5 years, he has been biking all around India. He is an IT guy. He worked for about 3-4 years. And since 2.5 years, he's going around. So we asked him, man, in 3-4 years, how much money did you make? Who is funding you? He said, 3 very generous sisters and their husbands. And he told us some of his experiences, how he was chased by Maoists in some parts and how his biko saved him and he could run away from them. So there are people who are really passionate about going around on a bike. At one place, we saw this rare greenery. I could not explain it. This was the only place where we saw such greenery. Momos, lovely, spicy, hot momos. No Maggie. These are the local people at the restaurant. Not that we saw too many of them in this attire. So well-deserved break from biking, sitting for a hot cup of tea, and you know what? But I could continue. Surprising thing is, altitude sickness was the one thing I was most afraid of, and luckily nothing happened. Even when 68 was my lowest, 68 was the lowest at a place called Sarchu. You can see some sheep grazing out here. I don't know what they are grazing because there is no grass. So maybe they are on their way towards North China side, but even their movement has been stopped by those people. Now, what that horizontal patch that you see, this one, is sand, actual sand, just like the sand that you see on our beaches. So when it is called a cold desert, it's not for nothing. In fact, after Pangong, this is on the way to a place called Nubra Valley. There was actual sand over there, and people had brought camels all the way, and people would take camel rides. Okay, and this, you can see how smooth the outline is. The soft stone has been totally, smoothened out by the winds over eons. And
Hot and cold.
sorry,
Hot and cold water next to each other.
that's right. Double M camels, you are right. The Mongolian camels, right? And suddenly in the middle of nowhere, you could see big army camps like this. And this was in a deep ravine. Okay, it was not, because that was the only possible flat place they could have there. So this is at a place called Sarchu, SPO 268. We reached, this was from Leh to Sarchu. Now what happened is, first day Kargil, second day Leh. Then we went around in a circle from Leh to Pangong, Pangong to Nubra, Nubra back to Leh. And then from Leh towards Manali. So from Leh to Sarchu was the longest part of the route. And we reached almost at 10 o'clock in the night. And that day we were really tired and wanting to have some real good food, which was luckily waiting for us. It was a tent accommodation. And this was early in the morning, 68. But when we woke up in the morning, we were happy to see beautiful scenery around and a lovely camp. This is the place where Manali people who are going to Leh put up either on the first day or the second day. For us, from Sarchu to Manali, there was one stop in between called Jispa, which we didn't make. It was a very short distance from Sarchu. We gave Jispa the go by and directly went to Manali. So from Manali, the first place is Jispa. So those people who don't wait at Jispa and go to Sarchu suddenly find a very big difference in the height, and they tend to not have acclimatization. This is another guy we met on the way. He is Nitin from Thrissur as of today, but that rotary board on his cycle has Trichur named on it. So I have purposely written Trichur. So he is an assistant director in films. He was on a cycle trip for 2 months. Just see how lightly he is traveling. He had a stove, he had a yoga mat for sleeping, a sleeping bag, very few essentials, and cooking essentials for a day or two. He may not be able to reach a town on a particular day. He may have to stop 10 or 15 kilometers away, and then he will have to cook for himself. So he had all these things. It is a cycle without gear. And he is going all the way up and down these mountains. So when we met him, he said his next stop, or rather his highlight of this trip for him, was Khardungla has been the highest possible motorway so far, around 18,000 feet. And in the very next few days, a new pass was going to be open at 19,000 feet. Unglingla, it has already opened. So he said on 15th August, now we are between 2nd to 11th of August, July. And his plan was on 15th August to reach Unglingla Pass and unfurl the tricolor. Very nice, simple guy. So notice anything different now out here? Greenery. Manali, here we come. Sarchu to Manali, we have already entered the Spiti Valley, beautiful waterfalls, greenery, and a lovely stream. Finally, we reached Manali in the evening, going via Atal Tunnel. Unfortunately, I did not have an action camera, the GoPro. Otherwise, I could have attached it to my helmet or to the handle and be able to take a lot of videos. I had got one action camera, but it didn't work well. I had to return it and get a refund. And there was no time to go in for the GoPro or any other such camera again. Very highly recommended, especially on these sort of trips, because then you can film everything on the go. However, I had a good, proper, regular camera, but then I tend to take more of videos rather than stills, so that the documentation of the trip is much better and I can also give a commentary. It was raining the next day. This is a picture from our group leader telling us that on the way to Pangong, one of the nalas had become really violent and we may not be able to make it. However, luckily for us, that was not the case. So if you ask me to describe this trip in one word, I would say it was, anybody? Liberating. Absolutely liberating. You are on your own. Riding a two-wheeler is a totally different experience, even in a congested city like Mumbai, Thane. And in these sort of places with a cold wind blowing against your face, lovely scenery. When we talk of scenery, the scenery in Ladakh, though very eye-catching, has the same color. The road is gray, the mountain is gray, the valley is gray, and you have to be very careful while riding that you don't get engrossed too much in the scenery. Otherwise, you will find yourself at the bottom of the cliff. Seriously, this is what I was told by somebody who has done a lot of such trips, that be careful. You can become engrossed in the scenery so much that I've seen some videos on YouTube where this guy is recording and looking down and suddenly he's down. So that sort of thing can happen. About the skills required, you need to be able to ride well. You don't need to be able to do stunts. You should have good balance, number one. You should have good riding sense. You should be able to, and you should accelerate at times. It is not that slow riding is good riding. Okay, the most enjoyable parts of the rides were the hairpin bends, whether going down or going up. So that time your riding skill would come into real play. But you have to be careful that the gravel which is at the side of the road sometimes comes onto the road, especially at the bends. So when you take a turn, do not suddenly accelerate, or the rear wheel will give way and you will fall. You may not hurt yourself, but these bikes are heavy and making them stand up again becomes very difficult. Would I do it again? You bet I would. Yeah. For the basic experience, for the reason I was not able to take an action camera, I would like to do it again, maybe not in the same place, some other place. And 1 year down the line, I think still it's more or less the same. Hopefully one can do it before it's too late. And anybody wanting to come ahead and join, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Priyank Patel is our spine surgeon and he will teach us how to walk between vacations. So he has a lot of experience on laptop. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, Dr. Joshi, sir, it was an amazing presentation. So what basically sir had was an amazing vacation, right? So the next question comes in is what exactly is vacation? Like, isn't it going to resorts and having fun with our friends and colleagues? Like you can see some of our Jupiter stars over here. You have Aniket and you have Kapil, where we all went to Uganda and we had a blast over there. Just a couple of weeks back, we went to a place in Alibag where a lot of spine surgeons met together and had the best time of my life over there. But the thing is that the next day, we started doing our work. So we had a lot of a good fun time in Uganda, but next day we were busy seeing our patients. So what's the harm in doing that? You know, what is the harm in enjoying yourself and working together? So after a crazy party in Alibag, the next day we were sitting around 10 to 12 hours, just focusing on spine and spine related activities. Isn't vacation again going for an adventure, like staying in some remote village, going through late night dangerous drives? So what is the harm of just throwing in some surgeries when you do there? So that video was from Gadchiroli, where we regularly go and we operate. So it's like in the middle of the forest. It's a very adventurous trip, but of course you do get the pleasure of working over there. So if actually you look up what really vacation means, so there are a lot of definitions of vacation, but basically what they say is it's a period spent away from home or business in travel or recreation, or it's a scheduled period during which activity is suspended, or it's a respite of doing something that you're doing recurrent. So basically what it tells us that vacation is nothing other than doing something that you are not regularly doing. Now, all of us are doctors, and the only thing that we do is we get up, see patients, operate, take our rounds, go back home, and then keep doing the same thing again and again. So like all of us, my journey started way back, like any other medical student, went through grueling years of studying, became an MBBS. After being an MBBS, I realized that I need to do something more, joined an orthopedic department, like a typical orthopedic unit. It's just work, work, work. And when you're not working, you're either studying or drinking. So that's basically how our life was. And after 3 years of grueling residency, eventually finished and became Master of Surgery. What next? That's the question that always comes up. For me, it was spine. And there's where I joined my teacher, Dr. Bhojraj, and started a spine fellowship. Once the fellowship was done, that wasn't enough. Wanted to go abroad. Did some rounds in the NHS UK, some in US, got further degrees. And what next? And obviously you've got all your degrees. You have to go up you have to go up the ladder. You have to run the rat race. And that's like all of us, I did the same thing. In 2016, I finally was appointed as a consultant at Jupiter. And that's where my life as a consultant started. So everything that I had dreamt of came in. I had a busy week, morning starting at 7, surgery at 8, coffee at 2, clinics till 7, then some teleconsultations or rounds, and then eventually dinner at 11. So when I started off, I was very excited. This gave me pleasure. A typical week was Monday through Saturdays. Sundays used to be either conferences or rounds and everything. A typical year used to be multiple national, international conferences. I like to teach. So there were CMEs, courses, going for surgical camps, all of these things. Yes, I had achieved whatever I had dreamt as a boy to achieve. And then again, when you reach there, you always think, what next? Why is it not getting the type of happiness which I always dreamt of? Like every time I was thinking that there's something missing. And then I see a lot of my seniors, and all of them are happy. And you know what I noticed, that they are happy. All of them have achieved what I have achieved. It's not like I have done something different than what they have or something great. What I noticed that each of these happy seniors who have achieved whatever I wanted to achieve or I had achieved used to do so many different things, different than medicine. So many things used to describe us. So we have Taral sir, who's, his story. He's just come up of a big injury and he's proven that where there's a will, there's a way. We have VTI sir, who is at present probably the senior most operating spine surgeon of our country.
and he's right here with us. And he does so many different things. Then I've got my teacher, Dr. Bhojraj, my mentor, Dr. Abhay Nene, who routinely once a month cycle to Alibag. And then we've just seen Dr. Pankaj Joshi, how he's just did a trip to Manali. So that's where I got my inspiration. And then I started thinking about life. And what I realized that, yeah, I was sent here to do spine surgeries, and doing good spine surgery is definitely that something gives me happiness. But is there room for more? And there's where I started thinking about success versus happiness. You don't really have to make yourself miserable to be successful. And you will never be truly satisfied by work until you're really satisfied by life. And if you actually look at literature, and this is really out there, these are facts from journals, where 1 in 3 doctors complain that they don't have time for themselves. An average lifespan for a doctor is 10 years lesser than any other individual. There's 4 times higher rate of depression in doctors, and 8.6% higher chances of emotional exhaustion, and 10% chance of burnouts. And this has come from Lancet. So it's something that has been looked after. Neglecting self-care and having a compulsive need to succeed and being able to prioritize are risk factors for work-life imbalance among doctors. That's what I realized. That's what I was trying to do. I had developed that compulsive attitude to succeed and move ahead in life. And there's where I was neglecting a lot of things. So work-life imbalance can eventually lead to fatigue, depression, divorce, behavioral difficulties, then mood disorders, and eventually substance abuse. One of my mentors told me once that tiredness is not because you work too much, Priyank, it's because of the repetition, because of the same thing that you're doing from Monday to Sunday. And there's where I realized that I'll have to do something different. And that's where I started working between vacations, living beyond spine surgery. And today I'm going to share how all of that has actually helped me become a better surgeon. Getting work-life balance, that's basically the magic mantra that you need to catch. If you see the real definition, the Cambridge Dictionary defines work-life balance as the amount of time you spend doing your, amount of time you spend doing your job compared to the amount of time you spend doing with family or doing things that you enjoy. So why should you really, live beyond work? Not because I am telling, or because you just saw someone do something really cool and now you feel that you also want to do it. You should do it because you want to live beyond your work. And once you want to do that, you'll realize that there are multiple meaningful ways to achieve what you're looking for beyond your work. A very important tip is time management. So basically, schedule personal time to take care of your physical, mental, and emotional health. Time management is not just about productivity and maximizing efficient time at work. You should set aside time each day or each day of the week to do things that are, something that you like, something good for your body, mind, and spirit. This might just include exercise, meditation, spending time with your loved ones, taking a short break between commitments. Whatever you like, take time out for it. Surgeons are actually medical sportsmen. So, in fact, one article in New York Times described surgery as a very demanding activity. Just like sports, it requires a very high level of mental and physical fitness. It has much in common with activities like Formula One racing, golf, both of which demand a high level of precision, stamina, and agility for their practitioners. So what a surgeon really needs is long hours of focused energy, something like what a test player would do. When you're operating around the cord, you don't want to rush. You need to be patient. You need to have focus. You need to live through that time. You should have your steady hands and tight spots. Just like a chess player, you should be very much focused, especially during that time where your focus is very important. Doing those critical surgeries like putting screws in your C2 pedicle, where one side you have the vertebral artery and the other side you have the cervical cord, and you just have a 1 millimeter gap. So you need to be focused at that time. But then you should know when to be aggressive. Like your anesthetist tells you that, okay, The patient is crashing. You have to finish the surgery quickly. At that time, you have to have control exertion, just like what you have in power play. So that's what a surgeon needs. And when all of these sportsmen really work hard towards their physical fitness, it's obvious that surgeons also need to be fit. So physical fitness is clearly a mandate for a high functioning surgeon. It becomes one of the few modifiable factors that can enhance a surgeon's performance. Very few practical aspects of how to get there and how to make your busy, engaging life to a fit, wholesome 360-degree life. One is when to start. Well, it has to be right now. You cannot plan that you're going to start in summer vacation or in Diwali vacation. It has to be a spurt of the moment. Urgently, you decide you want to do it and you start doing it. If you want to do something in your life that you have never had, you will have to do something you have never done. Remember that unless and until you get out of your comfort zone, you are not going to experience life. So magic always lies beyond the comfort zone. Remember the 30-day rule. It takes 30 days for a recurring activity to become a habit and 90 days for it to become a lifestyle. How do you start? Is you keep aside 3 weeks for the inertia period. In this time, put your head down and follow the plan. Disciplined repetition of a small, simple, doable task is very critical. So it could be 30 minutes walk, 3 kilometers, 30 minutes, 3 kilometers walk 5 days a week for 3 weeks straight, or just 30 minutes of swimming 5 days a week in the pool. Don't look at anything. Just keep doing this thing again and again. It could be just chilling on a exercise cycle while you're watching your favorite TV show. Whatever it is, just keep doing it. You will begin to understand as time goes the importance of calories and you'll get motivated. Remember, however slow you are, even if you're doing 1 kilometer walk a day, it is still better than that person who's not doing anything. So any and every effort is a good effort. Link this exercise to a habit. So like if you like to watch movie, TV, or you enjoy company, you do it. If you want like movies, you watch a movie, do cycling or treadmill. If you enjoy company, you go to a gym. If you like solo, then you just go for a walk alone. Doesn't matter. Whatever you like, stick to it. Decide if you're a morning person or an evening person. And remember, time, location, food, gear, nothing happens. I remember once I was cribbing that I don't get time because I shuffle between Thane and Bombay. And someone told me, just carry a dumbbell in the car. And when you're stuck in traffic, just do few bicep curls. That's also good enough. But don't give Karan that you don't have time, etc., etc. See, the only bad workout is actually the one that did not happen. Everything else is good. So that's something that you need to do. Now, the next part is to stick to it. So you have to make it bunk proof. Well, one thing is that you tell yourself you don't have a choice. You have to do it, rain or shine, you have to do it. The other thing is peer pressure. That helps. So publicly announce what you're going to do. What will happen is that the other people are going to ask you, "Arey, tune kiya kya? Arey, tune kiya kya?" So that is something that is going to keep pushing you. So like personally for me, I hate walking and running. So I have kind of publicly announced that by 2024, I'm going to do the Bombay Marathon. So every time someone meets me who knows me very well, they start, "Tune chalna chalu kiya kya? Walking karna chalu kiya kya?" But this is something that I want to do. I want to get out of my comfort zone. So I have announced to all my friends that is what I'm going to do. Always remember that there is always going to be someone who is busier than you still working out. So that should be your motivation. Then you look for a hobby. Now this is very important because your medical profession requires a lot of physical stamina. It requires your head to be calm in dangerous situations, and it requires a lot of skills. So when you pick up a hobby, that hobby is always going to help you become a better doctor. So pick something physically demanding, something that is mentally challenging. Learn to meet new people. You can share your experience, your goods and the bads, and have new experiences. For me, something that was mentally demanding is where I took up diving. Scuba diving was something that I used to love water. And pre-lockdown, I took up scuba diving. And there's where I got exposed to a completely new world, a world under the ocean. And in 2020, just last year, I had the experience of swimming with the tiger sharks. And this is where your hobbies really help. So I was in the ocean, and this was the first time I didn't know what to experience. And then I see this huge, around 10 feet, crazy looking shark coming towards me. And I had a GoPro in my hand, and mera fat gaya. So I saw that. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And I literally dropped my camera. And I just dug down into the sand. Like, I don't want to see what is going to happen to me. But again, you've been trained about your diving, you know what to do and everything. At that time, the only thing that is going to help you or save you is your calm head. So you tell yourself, all is well, sab kuch theek hai, it's not going to eat you. Listen to what they have told you, kya karne ka, and then you somehow maintained and developed that composure. And then I was back with my camera. I was trying to look brave, but I was scared. That was my first dive experience. Then I went back to my room, and then I saw what happened. The second day, I was anyway shit scared to again do the same thing. But I was like, nahi, karna to padega. Because same thing, announce kiya hai, karna hai, nahi kiya to popat ho jayega. So then I tried to calm myself down by telling myself all the time that things are going to be fine. Other people have done it. You will also be able to do it. And then same. So every time I did the same thing. It was scary, but every time I was less scary than before. And I was able to compose myself and handle myself. This same experience I actually had when I was operating. And at that time, it was a young girl, a VIP girl, and a walking girl with a bad scoliosis. And we were correcting the curve. And suddenly the neuromonitoring technician is telling us, Doc, kuch to tumne gadbad kiya. And I'm like, what happened? They're like, the MEPs have gone. And MEPs have gone means this is that intra-op way by seeing that, from your brain, the current goes to the legs. And if there is some harm to the cord or some problem to the cord, suddenly the MEPs go and the technician is able to tell you that there is some problem, check what is happening. Because if you don't check, the patient is going to wake up paralyzed. So I am operating. The technician has said the MEPs have gone. In my head, I am like, okay, VIP patient hai, young girl hai, she wakes up paralyzed, kya karega? And I am midway to the surgery. I have to, and I have my entire team over there. If the captain of the boat panics, everything else goes down the drain. So somehow I had to calm myself down. And what I had experienced at the time of diving, that experience actually helped me. That is what helped me remain calm, that okay, things will be fine. Go back to your learning, go back through the things that you are supposed to do when you lose potentials. There are those things which are there. It has been described in the literature, but when you're panicking, you don't know what to do. So first thing is you calm yourself down. And then we started going through all the steps, and then we realized that it wasn't a big problem. One of the screws had a medial cutout. All you had to do is reposition the screws and things were fine. Now, this experience which I had gained during my diving actually let me be calm when I was operating. And that's how maybe a disaster was averted. So these are things. So if you take up things which are mentally challenging, it is going to help you remain calm in your medical profession when those challenges will come in front of you. And mind you, every person who is a doctor will come across that challenging case where your calm mind is going to be the differentiating factor between a good result and a bad result. After that, I was like, chalo, abhi kuch aur bhi karna chahiye. So that's where I then tried to push myself and see how I can, how I can physically challenge my body. We are Indians. Either winter season mein Bombay mein 20 degrees mein we want to wear sweaters and jackets and go out. So for me, the most uncomfortable situation is cold. And there's where I decided that I want to dive in cold waters, because some years back, I had seen VTI sir's presentation. I think it was called as the White Beauty, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So I was fascinated by the trip he had taken to Antarctica, right, sir? Yeah. And I had dreamt that one day I am going to dive in and see what is under the Antarctic Ocean. So for me, it was the cold weather. So I said, chalo, let's challenge. Something came up, and we got a place on a shipping boat, which was going to do diving with the orcas in the Arctic Ocean. Now, the thing is that you have to cross the Arctic Circle, and you're going to do this in sub-zero temperatures. Like in December, you have to go there because it's only the cold weather where the orcas are going to swim up. So you have to do all of these things in the time where you cannot live over there. Like you can't survive in water which is less than 0 degrees. You'll die of hypothermia. So I said, chalo, this is the time you have to push yourself. Fat rahi thi, but I said, chalo, let's do it. And again, the same thing, I announced that I'm going to do it. So every couple of days, few of my friends used to be like, Tera booking hua, when are you going? What is it? Share your itinerary. Then I was like, abhi to there is no turning back. Already bol to diya hai. So a small experience of what I had gone through. We started off in Denmark, got acclimatized there, and then went to Finland. And from Finland, we got into a shipping boat. So you're supposed to live on this boat for a week. And this is in December, which is just 4 months back. The weather is not the best. You have snow happening. There are some times where you can't go in the ocean. And even if you have to stand on the deck, you have to be protected because it's minus 20 degrees with the chill factor. And to get into the water, you need these special suits, which are dry suits. Otherwise, you can't survive in there. And then they take you up in these small boats and they circle around the places where the orcas are spotted. Now these orcas, if you don't know, are also called as the top predators of the ocean because they are the only known creature who can kill a whale. That's why they have been given the killer whales, but they are actually dolphins. And if you have seen the movie Free Willy is basically an orca. And they are intelligent creatures, right? So the thing is that you go on these dinghies and you ride next to once you spot you see those fins that are coming up in between. So those are the fins, the dorsal fins of the orcas. And then you ride next to them and then you wait for them to approach you because they are like humans. You cannot just say that mere ko jana hai. It's not a zoo. You have to be privileged to be next to them. And once you're next to them, you jump in the water and you can see those beautiful, elegant giants swimming next to you. And how much ever macho you are, I have goosebumps right now also. It brings tears to your eyes because these are magnificent creatures in the ocean, in their habitat, and they have given the privilege or they have chosen you to interact with you. So they come next to you and they swim next to you. And these are zones of social interaction. And as soon as they feel that, okay, they don't like you, they just go off. So I was lucky enough to enter the third zone of social interaction where they were swimming very next to me. And you see, and then within a fraction of a second, they just disappear. You have around 4 to 5 hours of daylight only. And that's the time you can see them. So this was the closest that I had. You see how close this is? And this has been shot on a GoPro camera. So I had my friends who had like big digital cameras. Unfortunately, none of them would use because within an hour of being over there, your hands don't work. So it's just your knuckles and your fingertips that you can press. So probably the only cameras that worked were our GoPros. And this is 2 p.m. The orcas are very well guiding us to our boat, and they are intelligent beings. They are being studied upon. They have a patriarchal system. No, they have a matriarchal system. So the mother is the lead of the pod. They have the father who's in the back protecting the kids. They have names for each other. They have a language with 60 syllables. So that is how so we feel we are intelligent, but life is way beyond what we know. So that's my fascination, and that's where I just did that. And it was a experience of a lifetime. I can't even express how it was. So basically, the thing is that life is an adventure tour. It's not a package tour like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, ye karo. Learn, like life should be experienced. Try to get adventurous. a quick way to start is we have the Himalayas. Okay, we are in the grounds of the Himalayas. All over the world, people come to India to trek. So a trek is a very easy way to start. And this is something where it will not mentally, but physically push you. So there, when you go even for a small trek, there are going to be times where you'll be like, why the hell am I doing this? Let me go back to Bombay and chill in a cafe. But that every step you take where you're cursing yourself is teaching you to be physically more enduring. 20 years from now, remember, you're going to be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than the ones you did. So even if you go on a trek and you're probably not physically completely fit, or you choose to start a marathon and you're not able to finish it, it's still okay. Because if you don't attempt, you're going to regret it more. Dream big. That's very important to reach higher levels. Remember that life has to be experienced, not lived on the internet or read on a book. So whenever you go out, okay, try to enjoy life. So one way that I try to do it is every year I pick a place where I want to visit and club that with a small fellowship, a small observership, or a conference. So all of these pictures are at the time where I've gone for different types of fellowship. So when I was in Italy doing my tumor fellowship, I did a solo backpacking trip across Europe. I took a flight after 10 days, and 10 days I just went across Europe. So that's my way of seeing the world. And as doctors, we can't take one month vacations or 2 months vacation because we feel that we are not doing justice to our profession. But you can always go for a 1 month fellowship. And during that 1 month fellowship, try to learn new things and see and experience the world. Uh, we have spoken about mental health. We have spoken about how to physically push you. Remember that there is another part of our body. If we start to stimulate that, will really help calm you down. So after like a heavy day of work where your adrenaline is at 100%, when you want go home, you want to calm down, and that's where your fine arts are going to help you. So you should learn to explore your creative abilities. uh, and just in the lockdown, I had some time, and I have seen a lot of my doctor colleagues do fine arts. I'm a very bad singer, so that is something that I couldn't do, but I tried my hand at painting, and probably it was the most calming and soothing experience of my life. So now whenever, let's say, if I don't have a surgery in the morning, I don't have an early start, I just go at night, 11, 12, 1 or 2 hours, I just sit at one corner and paint. And it really calms myself down. If like your heart rate is at 80 when you start, by the time you're finishing it, you will notice that from 80, it goes to 70, 65. It calms you down. So that's something that you can pick up. Learn to collaborate and delegate tasks so that it de-stresses you. It frees up your time in your schedule and makes it easier for you to manage your work. So you can work with a team or a group, or even if you're a solo doctor, try to have more and more people in your team. Have a secretary, have an assistant. So many things are there. Know yourself, what you are, and you will excel in that. So if you're a full-timer, a academician, a freelancer, a hospital owner, whatever you are, you do that. So if you're an academician, learn to take time to teach. It will make you happy. Know your physical capacity, the hours of work. Some people can work for 16 hours, some people can work for 14 hours, some people work for 20 hours. Whatever you are, know yourself and learn to say no when it is beyond that. And know your limitations. Always remember your training. Don't shy away from asking help from your seniors. If you do that, then the stresses really go down. Learn to have a support system. So spend time with families, just going out for a small coffee. Have your peers with you, sit with them, chat with them. They help. They are going to teach you a lot of things. They'll take away your stresses. Have some senior mentor friend with whom you can sit over a beer and just pick up that he's at 2 a.m. friend. Are ye problem ho gaya, abhi main kya karu? So you see Ashish Fadnas here, I always call him up if I'm stuck up somewhere. And since small things like just going to a zoo with your kid really helps you, and all of these things are going to help you become better doctors. And at the end of the day, pamper yourself. You have worked hard, so you have the right to enjoy the finer things in life. I enjoy watches, I enjoy expensive pens and coffees, I enjoy good food. So I take time to do that. Have your bucket list and make sure that You don't wait till you become old to tick off your bucket list. You start doing it fast. And these are some things that is really going to help you. Remember the comfort zone thing. 90% of the population will live in the comfort zone, but it's out of the comfort zone where the magic really lies. So get out of there. You've always been told that you live, you only live once. But I probably would say that you should scratch that out. You remember, you live every day. You die only once. So make every day count. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Priyank has left everyone speechless. Anyway, is going to now stand up and say, I'm going to do.
Then I came back and went to meet Ravi sir and Gauri ma'am, and Ravi sir actually didn't recognize me. Gauri ma'am is like, "Arey Ankush." So as Dr. Priyank said, you take a month off and you join a fellowship. I took a year off and I went and worked in Antarctica.
Came back incognito. Came back incognito.
So basically, I have done my graduation MBBS from Nair Hospital, and I have done my DNB in emergency medicine from Hinduja. So my first love was general surgery. I didn't get into general surgery, so emergency medicine was my second option. And I had dreamt about things to do after general surgery. So when I joined emergency medicine, I was like, what different can I do with this branch? And then I came to know that we have a research station in Antarctica, and they do take in doctors to work over there. So I was like, okay, so that's the first step. I found something that I want to do different, and it seems feasible considering emergency medicine is one branch which can basically, it's a jack of all, master of none. And in a place like Antarctica where you don't really have a lot of hospitals or any tertiary care centers, you need a jack of all and master of none. And my branch, actually, my experience in my branch as well as my experience here in critical care definitely helped me to do stuff over there, because we had emergencies like orthopedic, ophthalmology, surgery, medicine. And because I'm a jack of all, at least I could stabilize the patients and keep them alive. So more on that while I. Hmm. Unfortunately, my laptop is showing an error with my Microsoft Office. So
Yeah, I think we should have.
It's 4.8 GB. Yeah. So
Oh, you don't have Microsoft Office. That could be incompatible. Some of the files, 64-bit don't work on that.
No, my laptop is maybe.
64.
But this is a different one. I'm just taking a chance. It's just a 10-minute this thing. Of course, his is going to be very different. This was the touristy thing. So this is Antarctic Peninsula. I visited there in 2016. 2016. So it's the most rugged, remote, ice-filled and unexplored regions in the world. We're waiting to deliver the richest travel experience we ever had. It's intimate wildlife encounters, diverse landscapes, and exquisite natural beauty. Antarctica is an environment of exquisite isolation, rich wildlife, stimulating history, and majestic topography. Our voyage to the end of the earth yields unparalleled adventure in every sense of the word. So the history, the Greeks were already aware of a word called Artos, that is this Arctic. So they had the theory that there should be something, opposite in the southern region to balance this. And they came up with the idea of Antarctic. So, and it was found in 1820. The first sighting of the continent was done by Mr. Thaddeus Bellhausen. So our journey started from the Argentine port called Ushuaia. Little more? Okay.
Don't check it.
Okay, fine. So this is the Argentine port where the embarkation on the ship was done. The ship name was Ocean Endeavor. So on board, we enjoyed talks on history, biology, and glaciology by polar experts. all while getting up close and personal with wildlife and exploring majestic natural environments. There was library full of books where you can make the notes also. There was a bar 24/7 open, which serves you with ginger ale and dry crackers to avoid that sea motion sickness. So crossing the Drake Passage, this is the most adventurous part, reaching to Antarctica. So vessels sail down to the historic Beagle Channel. It spans over 240 kilometers, emptying into the Drake Passage. Drake Passage is 500 miles between Cape Horn and Livingston Island. That is the shortest distance from Antarctica to another landmass. So it takes 2 days to cross the Drake Passage. There were the waves, coming up till 5th floor of the deck. So because there are the currents squeezed into this Drake Passage, and when we are sailing towards Antarctica, we are traveling at the 90° to those currents. That's why those waves so high. And this is crossing the iconic Antarctic Circle. So 66.5° south. And that was 26th of January. So where we hoisted our Indian flag. And we sung the Janaganaman. So these are the South Shetland Islands where we visited. It's a group of islands with a total area of 3687 square kilometer. This was our first sighting, Zodiac excursion. These are the Zodiac boats. This is the colony of penguin, and this is whale so nearby you can just touch that. It's so near to our Zodiac boat. And then we visited Argentinian summer station at Base Brown. These are the research over there. And these were the places that we visited. And this is the wildlife of Antarctica, penguins. There are Adelie, Gentoo, and chinstrap penguins that we visited. We saw this is the penguin highway. So when penguin is going back to their places, nobody is supposed to cross their highway. This is krill rail. This is the poop of the penguin. It looks so red. It makes the snow also red because they are eating krill, which is very krill are high on astaxanthin. That's a carotenoid. That's how the color of the poop is so pink. And these are the seals lolling on the ice. Then these are the birds of Antarctica. This is skua. This is albatross. It has a largest wingspan. And this is snow petrel. And there are whales breaking the water surface. And massive glaciers. So only noise that you get in Antarctica is from penguins or these massive glaciers breaking into the water. And these are some noctilucent clouds. They are made of, they absorb ice crystals and they give this blue light out. And this is that 26th January ka song. Thank you. It was very close. I just squeezed into his Lilu?
सर आप यहाँ तो लैपटॉप कोई बात नहीं
My bad. Share again. Share screen. Share.
Yes.
What?
Wow. Yes.
बराबर ना?
Sir, Dr. Priyank.
Will be able to hear. Baki to anyway, it's just happening through your Zoom पे है ना?
हाँ.
So others will.
हाँ,
Yeah,
यहाँ के लिए
it's loud enough for people. ऐसे ही बात कर तो हो जाएगा.
So basically, the expedition is part of the Ministry of. तो माझा आवाज तसा loud आहे.
Online audience.
So okay. So perfect. So the expedition is part of the Ministry of Earth Sciences, and special thanks to NCPR, that is the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, which takes care of this expedition, and the Indian Antarctic Program, which began in 1982. And I was part of the 41st Indian scientific expedition to Antarctica. All the videos and photos have been shot by me. None of this is available on Google. It's all mine. And so the question is, did I need a permission for the drone? So I had an official letter from the central government saying that this is part of the scientific equipment for the expedition. I had to declare it at customs. Then I had to take it. So that's the station and the area around the station. That's this is the entire station building. These are the camps. So I'll explain more as the photos come. I sure. So this is just the introductory video. Unfortunately, the video is lagging a little. Yeah, this video is there on YouTube. So this is in the middle of winter, in the morning at around 10 a.m. The watermark that you can see in the right corner, that's the alpha delta, which was actually my radio call sign over there. Whenever anyone has to call for me, I was not like Ankush or Dr. Ankush, it was alpha delta. So for the videos and photos, that is now my watermark. Yeah, so that's the lake which was frozen.
It's down.
So that's the name of my presentation, Terra Incognita, Antarctica. So in the late 1600s, 1700s, it was called Terra Incognita because people knew that there's land at the bottom of the earth, but it was not discovered. So basically it was hidden land. That's why it's called Terra Incognita. And the north was called as Arctic. It's called Arctic because in the language of the Inuits, Arctic means bear. And the bear was visualized from the North Pole, the constellation Ursa Major. It is called the Great Bear. So that's why the Arctic. So something which is opposite the Arctic, Antarctic. So that's why it's called Antarctica. So this is our main station building. This is the Maitri station. We had 3 stations. We had 1 and we have 2 right now. The first station was Dakshin Gangotri. It was built in 1982. It was built on the ice shelf, which is basically the frozen part of the Southern Ocean, close to Antarctica. Then this station was built in, they started building this station, which was supposed to be a permanent base in 1985. By 1989, it was completed. So this is almost a 30-plus-year-old building. And the third station, which is called Bharati, is located around 3,000 kilometers east from Maitri. And it was built in 2012. So 2 stations which are working and 1 station which was historically the station which began our program. And this is my So we had 1 room per person. We had 24 members who wintered at the station and 1 room per person. The room had 1 bed, 1 computer table, carpet, and 1 cupboard. That's all. These are the summer camp. This is the summer camp of the station. Interestingly, this is the view I used to get up to every morning. This is taken from my bedroom window, which is why I showed you where I stayed. The containers in blue are the shipping containers. Each container had 4 bunk beds. So there were 12 containers. So that would accommodate 48 people during the summers, mostly scientists. And the 3 brown huts, which you can see, they have been imported from Norway during the building of the station, which was in 1983. So that was the base where people used to stay, and then they built the station. Now those house labs for the station, labs which include seismology, oceanography, water research, lake research, and geology. And they also have places for scientists to stay. So during the summer, it's usually the 24 people who stay in the station. Apart from that, there are close to 70 station people can stay outside in the summer camp. And that hill on the right is called Hathi Parbat because it's like an elephant from the side. The reason it was like an important landmark for us because whenever we used to go out on the field, and then once we, from far away, when we would see the Hathi Parbat, we would know, okay, now we are close to the station. This area was named Kuber because it was like our Kuber ka Bhandar. All our food, fuel, everything used to be stored in those containers. And the blue building which you see is a workshop for vehicles. So whenever we had to go out on the field, we used to go in polar vehicles. Those vehicles need all-round maintenance. There's no real, like the vehicle mechanics, vehicle electricians were a part of the team who used to stay over the period of the entire year. Because if something goes wrong on the field, something goes wrong with the vehicle, you need someone who has knowledge of the vehicle to take care of the vehicle on the field. So you can't really go to a garage and take care of it. So which is why we had our own garage. And once a year, so those polar vehicles were called piston bullies, which were imported from Germany. And we used to have every year one mechanic, one engineer used to come from the company called Kasborer, and he used to come and do a routine maintenance of those piston bullies. Interestingly, he also taught all of us how to drive a piston bully, and I am an authorized piston bully pilot. I also have a license, which he gave me after training. So you can see some penguins over there. This green wooden line is basically our pipeline. And that small hut is a pump house. It is located in the middle of a frozen lake. The lake is named Lake Priyadarshini after Indira Gandhi ji. The actual official name is Lake Zub, which was given by Russian geographers, but we call it Lake Priyadarshini. And so that pump house would pump water and it would come via this line into the station. The top 15 feet of the lake is frozen around 10 months of the year. 2 months there is water, but otherwise the pipeline goes to a depth of almost 30 to 40 feet. This is the lake. This is shot during February when the lake had again started freezing, and it is shot from on top of Hathi Parbat. You can see that some parts are melting, some parts are frozen. So that is how the lake usually doesn't completely melt or completely freeze at once. It usually goes in phases. This was my office over there. And we had one bed. We had a digital X-ray machine. We had 2 monitors. One monitor for the medical examination room. And we also had one monitor for an ambulance. So the ambulance was basically a modified piston bully. The vehicle we used to take on the field whenever we had to go out. And that vehicle had everything, including oxygen cylinders, monitors, a defibrillator. So in case there is some casualty on the field, we had the setup ready. And along with the X-ray, we also had a rudimentary sonography machine. And we had all the medicines which are used in any hospital. As a matter of fact, we had an entire box of meropenem. And I'm like, why are we going to ever need to use it? But the government makes sure that everything that might be required is given to us. And that board over there, that is the name of all the doctors who have ever been at the Maitri station. And I'm proud to say that in India, less than 100 Indian doctors have been a part of the Indian Antarctic expedition. And thankfully, I'm one of them. So I was lucky. I reached Antarctica on the 11th of December in 2021. And within 10 days, I got my first sighting of a lot of penguins. And this photo was shot just right in front of the station. And of course, there were a lot of people who were taking selfies with the penguins. Thankfully, for my composition and the frame, I got a frame where there are no people seen. So I call this my money shot. As most people must have seen the movie Madagascar, and in that there are these 3 penguins. So these penguins actually behave exactly like it is shown in the movies. You have got one leader, you have got one person who's like the scout, and one person, the leader usually is at the end. And once the leader stops, everybody stops. Once the leader moves, everybody moves. And there's one penguin who they keep in the end, who makes sure that everyone goes and then he will leave. So this group of penguins, when we were photographing, we saw that after the penguins started moving, 3 penguins were just like, chilling at the side and not really bothered about the fact that the rest of the team is moving. So this leader started squeaking loudly, and they immediately left what they were doing and started following. So it's like a very well-oiled machine where they stay in a group and do everything together. And they don't prefer walking on land. They prefer the ice so that they can slide on their bellies, like you can see here. But when they walk, they do look cute. They actually do this, and it definitely looks cute. This is a military aircraft called the Ilyushin. It's a Russian military aircraft, and this is the aircraft which takes us to Antarctica as expeditioners. We go from Cape Town. This plane picks us up from Cape Town, and it's a 5.5 hour journey over the Southern Ocean, and it directly lands at the Novolazarevskaya Air Base, which is 5 kilometers away from the 5 kilometers as the crow flies, around 10 to 12 kilometers via piston bully from the station. This is a military aircraft, so there are no comfortable seats. Basically, you sit along the edge of the plane with the cargo right in between. And the only comforting factor for the flight journey is you get unlimited chocolates and drinks inside the flight.
Military plane hai
and this is a small propeller aircraft. So this is for the intracontinental flight. So if suppose we have to go from Maitri station to Bharati station, It is a 3,000 kilometer distance. So this is the aircraft which we use. These flights are operated, the pilots are actually from Canada. So these flights fly all the way from Canada. When the season starts, they stay in Antarctica for 3 months and then they go back all the way to Canada. And along South America, then Central America and Canada. That's how they fly. They take usually 12 to 15 days to go back to Canada. And in Antarctica, now from Maitri to Bharati, if you have to travel, it usually takes 12 hours. So people who go to Bharati, they are more worried about the fact that this plane doesn't have a toilet. So everyone boards the flight with a bottle, an empty bottle of water. And for everything else, they pray to God that the journey is good. So this photo was shot when our last batch of fresh vegetables had come. So the vegetables, milk, eggs, we usually get from November to February only. And it is once a month. And usually, even if it comes once a month, it doesn't really last the month. It lasts not more than 10 days. And this was like a celebratory day because after this, we weren't going to get fresh milk or veggies for the next 10 months. So around 10 members of our team had gone there, not just to celebrate, but also to collect our stock. And another reason why people wanted to come to collect this is because it was also the last batch of fruits. So they could park some fruits and take them to the room before people start counting and realize, okay, there were actually like 100 apples and okay, now there are 20 missing. This was actually shot at 2 a.m. But it's close. It's still waning summer. So the sun sets by around say 9 p.m. and then again comes out at around 2 a.m. Now the interesting thing about the sunrise over there is here around the equator, the distance between two longitudes is 110, 112 kilometers. There where we were staying, the distance between two longitudes is 40 kilometers. So the sunrise is almost like a time lapse. You can actually see the sun move fast in the along the horizon. So this photo, I didn't have my camera with me at that time. I realized that the sun is coming up. I went to the vehicle and removed my camera. By the time the camera was in my hand, the sun was already up. So the movement of the sun is that fast over there. Thankfully, I got a good shot because just when I was clicking, I saw a Polar scooter just going towards the station. And there, because it's so in the southern region, the sun doesn't go overhead. It always moves along the horizon like this. So whenever you get up, the sun is moving in one direction, the moon will be like this. None of the planets or not the sun, not the moon, nobody is going to be up in the sky. So it always gives this at an angle with the shadows cast in different directions. And the snow usually changes colors. It will be black, gray, blue, and white, depending on the angle and the direction of the sun. There on the horizon, you can see something which is pinkish orange. That is the ice shelf. That is the permanently frozen part of the Southern Ocean. So from here, technically speaking, we live at the beach. So tomorrow, because of the greenhouse effect, if everything is completely melted, this is where the sea will be. But thankfully, at this present moment, this ice shelf extends to almost 150 kilometers during the summers and over 400 to 500 kilometers during the winters. This was Nunatak. Nunatak is again an Inuit word. What it means is glacial islands, basically rocks which are surrounded by ice. We had named this, as in the Indian expedition has named this Shivling because it looks like a Shivling. So like Hathi Parvat, this is also one of our markers because the Shivling is seen even from 200 kilometers away. So whenever we used to when we went towards the ship to collect our annual supplies, we could see the Shivling and we would know, okay, that's where our station is. This is a routine field day. My team was having tea over there, and we had just taken a break for around 20 minutes. And I thought, okay, like, this is exactly what I am here for. there's just white snow right up to the horizon. There are beautiful mountains. The sky is pretty blue. And really, at that moment, I didn't have a care in the world. And I thought, okay, at that moment, the tea which was made, it was made at the station and we had brought it to the field. It was in a thermos flask. It was not really boiling hot, but it was probably worth more than $1 million in that location. So this is our convoy of vehicles. We usually have to go once a year around the month of March towards the sea, because that's where the ship comes to give us our annual supplies. So supply of fuel, food, equipment, and lab equipment for the next expedition. Usually research proposals come 2 years in advance. So this convoy goes towards the barrier where the ship comes, and that is where the ice shelf meets the sea. And the convoy usually is composed of these 6 very important things. Those 4 things are piston bullies, those 4 vehicles on the right. Then this one, the first one, it is called a banjara. That, as in we call it a banjara, because it is like a living module, so that we don't really have to tent everywhere we go. We carry this along with we tow this to one of the piston bullies. The banjara has 12 beds and 1 heater. The second container is called, that is our generator module. It has got a 25 kilowatt generator inside the module, which is powered by fuel, which is in the third one. That is called a Jivan. We call it a Jivan Jyoti. It has got a 5 kiloliter tank of aviation turbine fuel in the Jivan Jyoti. So whenever we have to camp somewhere, we camp the banjara, then the generator module, and then the Jivan Jyoti. Fuel from the Jivan Jyoti goes into the generator module. The generator is started. Via wires, it is connected to the banjara, where we can power basic electricity for lights, as well as the blower for our heat. And along with that, we have a heater for water. Now, water is basically this snow. Every day, 3 to 4 times in a day, we collect a crate of snow. We put it in the tank, which has got the heater, so that it melts into water. That is our water for all purposes. We reached our location at the barrier. One day we relaxed, and next day, this is what we were stuck in for the next 7 to 8 days. So we were stuck in a blizzard where winds were reaching speeds of over 18-19 knots, which is more than 150 kilometers per hour. And when my parents saw this, they were like, "What are you doing outside?" So primarily it was work. I had gone to do 2 things. One is check up on the generator. Everyone had to pitch in. It was not like, okay, ये doctor को आराम से बैठ के relax करेगा, हम काम करेंगे. It was not like that. Everybody had to pitch in for work. So I had gone outside to check up on the generator and also to collect snow for the next 6 hours of water. So in the meantime, I thought I anyway had an action camera, so I attached it to my jacket. And I thought, as well, I'm going outside, as well shoot it for my own memory. So this blizzard continued for 7 days. We were living in 2 modules. One was the banjara, one was the living module. So for food, we had to go from living module to the banjara through this blizzard. Even for toilet, we had to go from living module to the banjara through the blizzard. So most of us would go just have 1 meal in the day, so that the question of toilet doesn't arise, and just stay in the living module. But then, regardless of that, we had to come out because the roster was ready for the routine work of collecting snow, as well as doing the routine checks. And then on the 7th day, we were so accustomed to the blizzard, we were doing push-ups in wind speeds of 40 knots. The one in black is me.
I did 35. This guy asked me to stop. I'm like, like 20 is too low. But then by that time, the wind speeds had dropped. And then end of the blizzard, this is what we were stuck in. The snow had piled up to over 5 feet. And we spent the next 3 to 4 hours just removing all the snow, starting these vehicles. Thankfully, these vehicles being polar vehicles, they are accustomed to those low temperatures. So they took a little time to get started, but then they did start. And then we reached the barrier, which is at the sea. There's no, as far as the colors are concerned, there is no editing here. These were the actual colors. So there, the air as well as the flatness of the land, as well as the clarity of the air. The visual distances are very high. So there, it's not really clear in this, but on the horizon you can see some mountains. They are actually over 300, 400 kilometers away from where we were. But because the land is flat and the air is very clear, you can see things which are very, very far away. That guy who's standing over there is me flying the drone while the work was going on. So people always ask me, ki, Tera idhar kya kaam tha? So point is, on the field, things can happen where people can actually get injured. Like we had injuries where a guy fell off the tank, which was around 15 feet high. Or there was a guy, we had helicopters which were working, and with the rotors, the door smashed onto his hand. So in such a situation, you need medical support. The thing with my colleagues was everybody is like, "Arey sir, आपको तो क्या काम है? आपको तो बस photography करना है." I'm like, "See, मेरे को काम करने के लिए आपको गिरना पड़ेगा. तो आप volunteer करो कि जिसको गिरना है गिरो. मैं काम करने के लिए ready हूँ." Sir, ऐसे क्यों बोल रहे हैं? I'm like, "See, you are the one who is saying, who is pointing out that I have no work. So my work depends on who is going to get injured." So then after that, then nobody ever said, "Sir, आपको कुछ काम नहीं है." No, actually nothing. So we had fortnightly medical checkups for everybody, and we had 5-6 emergencies. But apart from that, it was So there was one dislocation where I relocated the arm, but then for the fracture, I had to evacuate the patient. Plus, as far as the station maintenance is concerned, we are part of the roster. There's no, we have to help the cook, we have to help the chef, we have to clean the kitchen, we have to clean the entire station, the bathrooms, urinals, everything. So that for that roster, you get your duty once in 11 days. So for that, everybody, including the leader of the expedition, does that. Earliest is 15 days. And there was one guy. So the guy who had a fracture, he also had a dislocation. After relocating, then I took the X-ray. Then I said, okay, fracture be here. So then we sent a notice for evacuation. Thankfully for him, it was in summer. If it would have happened in June, July, it would have been evacuated in November. So this is the ship which we chart. It's a chartered ship. This was the sunset on one of those days from the ship.
And there the weather is very fickle. Like, one day it will be very clear and the other day it will be stormy. So the colors of the sky as well as the sea keep changing. Now you can see an iceberg on the right. That iceberg was not there at 12 hours before. So it had broken in the night where we had stayed on the ship. Next day morning, I had again gone out for photography, and that's when we noticed the iceberg. So global warming is real. This was the ship. We chartered from the Russians. Now, the interesting thing about Antarctica is there are no borders over there. So technically speaking, and even realistically speaking, the ship is chartered from the Russians for the Indians. The helicopter is flown by Ukrainians, and the other helicopter is flown by South Africans. And the entire thing is organized by ALSI, which is Antarctic Logistics International. And it is a conglomerate of around 15 countries. So when we were there, this was in March, and the Ukrainian war had just begun. Two of the pilots had lost their family members during the war in the first few weeks itself. Yet work continued as usual. Their interaction with the Russians had obviously reduced, but it was not nil because work had to continue. And that was also the first night I saw my first aurora ever. And these two are Magellanic clouds. Basically, they are the satellite galaxies of the Milky Way, which are seen only from the southern hemisphere because they are located, if you physically speak, they are located below the Earth. That's why we cannot see it from here. On the clearest of night, you cannot see it from here. The only way you can see it is you have to go below the equator. Next day again, we went back to the ship and we were told, okay, like, today is the last day where the ship can stay here because you can see these white pieces. They are called pancakes. Basically, they are ice. It is ice. The water has started freezing, but it's not completely frozen. So this is like a warning for the ship that you move away from here. Otherwise, the ice will just pack up and you'll be trapped. So the ship left, and this small dot, that's the ship. It had moved to the open sea while we were working here, and these were the impending storm clouds. And it had already started getting very, very windy, but we had to keep working because all the tanks and the trailers were already out onto the ice, and we had to tow those vehicles and then head to the base camp. And on the way to the base camp, this is what I saw. Basically, it was exactly symmetrical. The blue on the ground is basically the ice. The blue on top is the storm clouds. And I just saw a thin sliver of golden light, which was the sun, which was just below the horizon. Next day, again, the day was clear. So weather literally changes every 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours. So we always have meteorological backup from the station who keep updating us via satellite phone as to what the next meteorological activity can be. And again, here we had to tow all the vehicles and like move to the station. And this one was shot from the window of my living module from my bed. This is what I used to see before sleeping every night. On the way back to the station, our vehicle got stuck in a crevasse. You can't really see it before the vehicle gets stuck in it or before you fall into it. The depth of the crevasse can be anywhere between 10 to 100 feet. When you look into it, it literally looks like an abyss. And there have been occasions where a Russian trailer, the entire trailer along with the Russian expeditioner had fallen into the crevasse to a depth of 50 feet. The guy probably died at that time. We don't know when he died because he was rescued the next year. So there was no rescue. Basically, his body was evacuated the next year. Yeah, it was basically an extrication. So the vehicle fell into the crevasse, and people did try to find out, but basically once it goes below those 10-20 feet, you cannot see what is inside. During the extrication, they realized, okay, the depth is almost 50 to 60 feet. And at that time, because it's Antarctica, the body was completely frozen, and it was exactly how he had died. So our vehicle got stuck over here. This is the crane, and it took around 4.5 hours for the crane to rescue the vehicle so that we could move on. After the rescue, I saw this amazing sunset. Sunset colors over there are usually very brilliant. And I thought, like, we thought, okay, after a 4.5 hour of evacuation from the crevasse, this is like a good time to have coffee with the sunset. So we just removed the snow from there, melted it. There we usually get ready to eat packets of coffee and tea where we just have to mix it in water. And all of us enjoyed the coffee before moving on to the station. From here, my colleague who was the actual pilot of the piston bully was too tired to drive. So he handed over the reins to me, and I pulled a 24 kiloliter tank of fuel from here to the station for around 50 kilometers. Now here in Antarctica, distances usually are not equivalent to distances back here in India. The vehicles don't move over 12, 13 kilometers per hour. And everywhere there's ice and snow. The easy part is even if you fall asleep, you're not going to hit anything. So you can just change your direction and you're still fine. The only risk is the crevasse. So everybody like moves in a line. Now this is a sunset. This photo, the reason I put this photo in this slideshow is over there during sunsets, you see the entire spectrum of colors in the sky. You will see from violet to red exactly in that line. You will also see a green in the sky. And this usually happens because the angle of the sun in those southern regions is so high that the light gets split into its 7 colors.
They say that near the magnetic poles, your GPS doesn't work well.
Yes. But then that is, I was very, very far away from the magnetic pole. But then in the beginning, when I flew my drone, I did get some issues with the compass. So it always used to give me a warning, but then I used to land again, like reset, and again used to fly. This was the last sunset before the polar night began. After this so this was on the 21st of May. After this, we wouldn't be seeing the sun for the next 2.5 months. So everybody came out and everybody took this photo thinking, okay, like iske baad abhi andhera hi andhera hai. Now, it doesn't really happen that it is andhera hi andhera. Usually this is what we see. There at the horizon, you can see that there's the sun over there. So you can make out, okay, the sun is right there below the horizon, but it never comes up. And usually there's complete darkness for 18 to 20 hours. And there's a little twilight from 4 to 6 hours. So this is the lake which is frozen. Now, from close quarters, this is how it looks. Now, the colors of the lake depend on how much of the lake has melted in the summers. If the part has melted completely, it looks dark blue. And if the part has melted a little, very less, then it looks almost white. So those colors are due to frozen air bubbles. This is a drone image of the same lake. This is my wallpaper on most of my devices now. And the colors are usually due to these frozen air bubbles. Basically, the bubbles get trapped and they freeze. The more bubbles are there in the ice, the more white it will look. So if something has melted quite often, then there are less bubbles. If something has not melted at all, there are more bubbles. That's why there is a difference in color. So this was my team. We shot this on the 21st of June. 21st of June is celebrated all over Antarctica as Midwinter Day. It is the longest night of Antarctica, and whoever celebrates 21st June in Antarctica is awarded with this certificate, a Polar Explorer certificate. In India, we have less than 2,000 people who have this title of Polar Man. Again, thankfully, I am one of them. And we are presented this. Thank you. Sorry. Possibly, yeah. And we are presented this certificate not So apart from the Indian station leader, there's also a countersign by the Russian station leader. Only then there is authentication for the certificate. So this station, the Novolazarevskaya.
It's not like TME in March.
No. So this Novolazarevskaya station, if you observe, ours is the 41st expedition. Theirs is the 67th expedition. So they are a much more experienced guys, and they also helped us in building the station originally. Now the Novo station is very famous. I had read about the Novolazarevskaya station in school because it is famous for Dr. Leonid Rogozov. He had operated on his own appendix over there.
Oh.
Yeah. And he performed his appendicectomy along with the help of one carpenter, 2 vehicle mechanics, and a welder and a chef. But he did the main thing. But apart from that, and it was under local anesthesia, and he had trained those guys. Once he realized that he's having RIF pain, he trained those guys to give injection, to cut if required, and to hold the mirror in those perfect locations. So he saw his the site, operative site, in a mirror and operated on himself. So when I narrated this incident to my colleagues over there, my colleague was an internal medicine guy. So I told him, listen, I obviously don't have guts to do an appendicectomy, but if I need sutures, you are not taking it. I'm going to take my own sutures. So he's like, okay, no problem.
So
Coordinates are also different.
Yes. So this is 4 kilometers due east.
your internal medicine colleague was willing to hold the mirror.
Yes. Yeah, so there were 2 doctors. I was usually they take one internal medicine guy and one surgical candidate. Now, this is the location of the Novolazarevskaya station, and this was shot in midwinter, which is why you see a lot of snow and the sun below the horizon. And so we usually keep going there on a social basis, as well as if we have some work or we need their cooperation or they need our help. So and for vodka also. But then the thing with vodka was we had a very limited stock of rum, and they wanted our rum. So they would give vodka only if we give our rum. So it was like a barter. So it was not really easy to get the vodka from them because you have to give something back.
All frozen.
No. The vodka and the rum is not. And this is our station on the same day. July is my birthday, and my leader, that's my leader in red. So usually at the station, my activity apart from the general work was always to go out to do photography at night, and in the day to go trekking. So there's a custom that every birthday of the member is celebrated inside the station. One day before my birthday, my leader decided कि Dr. Ankush बाहर रहते हैं continuously, चलो इनका birthday भी बाहर celebrate करते हैं. So and this was the day we experienced our coldest temperature also. This was clicked in -50.
Oh.
And that cake was a blueberry cheesecake, which was actually frozen. And cutting it was a big task. So 4 or 5 members cut it along with me, and everybody started stuffing those frozen pieces in my mouth. So my mouth became all cold. But it was quite an experience. We were standing on the frozen lake. And after this, people had vodka shots, which were obviously not mine. The Russians had given. And that's the full moon in the background. Interestingly, believe it or not, this is a UFO. Now it's an unidentified flying object. Now, conspiracy theories, I love conspiracy theories. It might just be an alien aircraft because it came from the south, headed to the north. Satellites don't look like this. No airplanes fly over there. नहीं, वो Starlink satellite तभी start नहीं हुआ था. So, and it's too bright for a Starlink also. We did see the Starlink launch also over there. So depends on what you think it is. I think it is a UFO and probably an alien UFO because I do believe in aliens. And these are shots of the moon. Unfortunately, again, they are not looking that great in this. But the moon usually, when it rises, it looks like a small planet. It doesn't look the size it is here. It looks huge over there. And at night, on full moon nights, you don't need a torch to walk outside. The white snow and the bright moonlight reflects all the light, and you can see everything. And on dark moonless nights, of course, we go out with a torch. But once you are accustomed to the entire area, starlight is enough to walk in snow.
Your cameras had polarizing filters?
No, I didn't use any of the filters. So this is a full moon. This is not the sun. This is a full moon shot on a full moon night. You can call it long exposure photography, but it was as good as barely a second or so. And these were our constant companions over there, auroras. I had 42 nights of aurora sightings. This was one of my major reasons why I left my job here and went there. I was like, rather than paying 10 lakhs for a trip to Iceland, I would rather go there for a year, get paid and see the auroras. And 42 nights of aurora is what I saw. There were more auroras, which I didn't see for multiple reasons. Usually bad weather, or I was sleeping. Usually the auroras used to come at say 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And almost the entire station used to be sleeping except for two guys who, again, there was a duty roster for that, where we had to like be the night watch for the entire station. So they used to tell me, sir, after working in the ICU doing shifts, we don't have a sleep cycle, sir. But for others, it does cause an issue.
The station followed time zone of
Yes.
Argentina?
No, the station followed time zone GMT. So coordinated universal time, UTC, because our longitude is 11 degrees east. So it's close to Greenwich Mean Time. So before going, there was firstly, there was a medical, surgical, psychological fitness test in AIMS. After that, we had 3 weeks of training in Oli, Uttarakhand. From there, 14 people were selected for that. From there, the top 4 were selected. Before that, 250 applications were there. From there, 56 were shortlisted for an interview. From that, 14 got selected for those fitness and everything, and then the top 4 went. So there's no age cap as such. The oldest doctor who has been to Antarctica is 62. And we had one, I'm not the first doctor from Mumbai. I'm the third doctor from Mumbai. Yeah, I'm the third. The first is Dr. Murad Lala's wife, Dr. Mamta Lala. Dr. Murad Lala has climbed the Everest. At that time, she went to Antarctica on the voyage. And Dr. Madhubala from KEM, the anesthetist, she had been for the 36th. I'm the third in the 41st. So this was at the airport. Again, I had gone there to I told my leader, sir, night photography करना है, थोड़ा नया location दे दीजिए. अभी इधर ही station के आजू बाजू photo करके मेरे को bore हो गया हूँ. So sir like चलो Novo airbase जाते हैं. So we went to the Novo runway. Nobody goes there during winters. It is barren. But this is probably the only image of this place ever. And that is not the sun. Obviously, that's the full moon. And that's the Milky Way. Long exposure. That is around 8 to 15 seconds. And then the sunset, which had set on the 21st of May, 29th of July, it came back up. It came back up for around 30 minutes. But when it came that day, I decided I'm never going to take the sun for granted. Because when it comes up, you actually feel hope and positivity flowing through you. I am not kidding. It's actually a feeling which cannot be described. But when it did come up, like I said, I cannot describe it. It was that beautiful. And these are polar stratospheric clouds, which you see usually only in the polar region. So these clouds are in the stratosphere, and because of the angle of the sun, again, the light gets split up and you see all the 7 colors. And so that's the station. The midwinter day photo which I had showed, that was on the lake. So from there, I have shot this image. And the green glow which you see in the background in the southern skies, that green glow was almost perpetually present over there during the nights. Now that is actually auroral activity, but it doesn't, after looking at dazzling auroras, it doesn't really look like an aurora. Now there was a running joke in the station. So most of the station members were North Indians, and they used to call aurora as aurora. So our leader is like, अरे डॉक्टर अंकुश बाहर जाते रहते, कुछ अरोड़ा बिरोड़ा नहीं, आज तो मल्होत्रा दिख रहा है. So basically, whenever, so people used to ask me, कि sir आज क्या दिख रहा है बाहर, अरोड़ा है मल्होत्रा है. So if there's Malhotra, nobody would care. If I say नहीं आज मल्होत्रा थोड़ा अरोड़ा की तरफ जा रहा है, then people would come out and look at it. So this was again in the middle of winter. Again, you can see the aurora. I told my leader, I was like, sir, चलो अभी station में बहुत हो गया, एक दिन चलो tent में रहते हैं. So people are like, अरे इतना temperature. This was shot in temperatures of below -25. And I told my leader, I was like, sir, let's at least plan a night in the tent. We don't have to spend the entire night. So I thought sir will ignore me. Next day in the meeting, he told our station maintenance guy, his name was Anna, like we used to call him Anna. He's like, Anna, midwinter point pe tent dal dete aaj. So Anna and I went, we put up the tent. I got first degree frostbite while putting up the tent because the temperatures are I was prepared for -20, and then suddenly it became very windy. So the wind chill was above -40. But I had to set up the tent because I was more excited about living in it. So I was like I was rubbing my hands, setting up the tent, rubbing my hands. And then we went back to the station that night. We came here, we reached here so it was barely around less than a kilometer from the station. And we came here at around 9 p.m. And it was Malhotra at that time coming, and it was definitely expected that we would get great auroral activity. And it had already begun at that time. And so from this was at around 9 p.m. Then the auroral activity increased, and it kept increasing, and the entire sky was green. And this was at around midnight, and we were very cold by then. The temperatures are obviously dropped below -40 by then. Wind chill factors. Actually, air temperature was around -25 persistently. But as the wind increases, the real feel decreases. And we stayed in the tent till 4:30 a.m. We couldn't sleep, obviously. And I had to take 2 pee breaks also, which were like very, very, very difficult. So finally, I told my leader, sir, अभी चलो वापस जाते हैं स्टेशन. तो सर like, अरे नहीं लोग हंसेंगे अपने पे कि पूरी नाइट बिताने वाले थे और क्या. I was like, sir, it is already 4:30 a.m. By the time we reach, it will be 5. बोल सकते कि सुबह तक तो थे टेंट में. ये like, अच्छा 4:30 बज गए, चलो. So thankfully, this is one thing off my bucket list, living in a tent in the middle of Antarctica. And the auroral activity obviously keeps happening, and we see different colors, including purple and red. And I used to roam around at different places for my photography, basically because I wanted different compositions, different foregrounds for my photos. That bright object on the left is the planet Jupiter. So over there, planets like Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Saturn look huge compared to how it looks over here. And look very bright. You can actually, they actually cast your shadow when you walk under them. And that blue glow in the center, which you can see, that is from the lights of the Nova station. And obviously that's the aurora. So this is again shivling at night. Again, I had the same reason I wanted to go have a different photography composition. Thankfully, my leader was very, very, very encouraging. So I actually give him a lot of credit for most of my photos. And there's a resort over there called White Desert. It is owned by the British. You can go there. It costs 1 lakh euros for 10 days. So this is where they stay. It's only for summers. So winters, it's like an open area. Like we are actually not allowed to go, but we do go. And it actually seems like a scene out of Mars, where when our first human colonies come on Mars, this is probably how they look with the igloos and the Milky Way. And the yellow glow behind, that is the full moon, which is just rising. This is again the White Desert resort. And this is how it looks during the day. And this is the ice wall, which is close to the resort. Again, you can see effects of global warming. And this was our route for many treks. And these things used to crash all of a sudden, like without warning. So we always have to take care, but they really looked pretty. So we used to go there for photography and trekking. And this was again on a route, on a trekking route. And in temperatures below -20, -25, even your breath freezes on your face. So this is within 30 minutes of walking in -25, where all my breath is frozen on my beard. This photo, which I had shown in the beginning, so you can see the island on the right. Now, this is the same photo from that island. So now I am standing on that island. We had done a 22-kilometer trek. From the station, we walked all along that. This height from the lake to the top is over 150 meters. So we were on top. We walked down, walked across the lake almost 2 kilometers, climbed this island. Basically, no reason, just for the heck of it. But again, for experiencing, because you're there, you do stuff. And on the way down, we saw this rookery of penguins. This is where this is basically their nesting site. They collect rocks, and that's where they lay their eggs. So there were lots of penguins, and over there, when they're in a group, they're not really scared of you. You can go close to them. The only thing, if you enter a space where they're not comfortable, then they'll squeak a lot. And basically, that's the warning, you stay away. But if you're close to them, you take photos with them, they don't mind it. चोर थे पर मैंने नहीं देखे where they go and take someone else's rocks. But I did see a penguin. Basically, the females lay their eggs and they give the egg to the male, and then they go to the sea to have their food. So I saw that happening, where the female gave the egg to the guy, and she moved back, and he was like, adjusting his the eggs between his feet.
I have a clip of chores. Two of them stealing stones. Systematically.
In Melbourne, there is this penguin parade every night after the sunset.
Okay.
It's facing the Antarctica.
Okay.
Melbourne.
Yeah, so penguins do come above. Yeah, they do come above the Antarctic Circle. They come here only for breeding.
Just watch penguins coming parade every day. It's written like today 2,500 penguins. Baby penguins.
Okay.
They're not the big ones, the baby penguins. And sunlight again, they go back into this.
Okay. Yeah, so Antarctica, they come only for breeding. In the winters, they are not here. And after the trek, this was my condition where all my breath was frozen on the balaclava. And this was after 6 hours of wearing the balaclava. Now, the next photo is the photo of our leader who was leading the trek. He had not removed his balaclava for the entire trek. This is how he looked. So this was in temperatures, wind chills of -25 to -35.
Looks like Alaskan dog.
Yeah. And like when I went back to the station, I had to stand in front of the generator for 15 minutes to basically melt all the ice which was stuck in my beard and was catching the balaclava. Otherwise, I would have pulled out my hair. And this is an interesting clip of what happens with boiling water in -25. So it instantly turns to snow. So, this is called a solar pillar. So basically the condensation which is there in the atmosphere, when it turns into ice below -20, the sunlight, when it is just below the horizon, the light reflects off those ice crystals and form this thing called a solar pillar. And there's this plane over there, which has there was a crash around 10-12 years back, and the plane is still lying over there. So again, like, one day we told the leader, sir, wo plane dekhne jana hai. So sir is like, okay, chalo. And we drove. So these three cars are actually the one on the right is a Toyota, but these two are Tata Xenons, which surprisingly work really well over there. They just take a little time to switch on, but otherwise they work really well in winters over there. That's me with the flight. And this was the highlight. This was one day before I came back. I was like, okay, this is one last thing left. I have to take a dip in the lake. I chose a day which was relatively warm at +1 degrees, but the wind chill was around -3, -4, and the water was at +4. So I took a dip. Obviously, it was really freaky, but I did it. And I have got photographic evidence for that. And the reason I took this pic is basically one of the reasons I wanted to go to Alaska is to attain Nirvana. Now, I have not attained Nirvana, but I can officially say that I'm very, very close to it. And this pic is basically me trying to be a yogi in Antarctica. And yeah, and this was my team. And the last slide is a video. That video has been shot over 72 hours spent in the darkness, shooting over 18.5 hours of video, which has been clubbed into a time lapse of 4.5 minutes. It is a time lapse of an aurora.
More constraints, more imagine southern place. The illusion that we have some privilege position in the universe are challenged by the state of theories. Our limits of knowledge.
So it's not a pretty kind of skill.
We are skeptical, enormous vastness, to save us from ourselves.
Right? No. This I haven't.
Every superstar, every superhuman leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there in the maiden dust, suspended against the meat.
So it's usually the actor for it is the Amazon Scott station. They follow their time. So that it is in tandem with what's going on in their country. We had a calculate that within their communication.
Do not go gentle into that good night.
Sometimes bounce
Old age should burn with rage and stay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end, the dark is light, because their words had fought no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Norwegian.
Actually, everybody is speechless.
Thank you.
Speechless. Excellent presentation. So we take a break next month. After listening to all these talks, we take a break next month from grand rounds. We start in June. 1 month vacation. We have not taken vacation since many years.
Laptop around to show to the online.
Today is the maximum attendance online and offline. Offline maximum attendance. Best presentation. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
How did you
निर्वाणा तर तिकडे दोन केलं होतं ना.
Does the team change of?
Yes. So when we came back, there's a 1 month overlap. So the new team comes in December. I came back on the 20th of December back to India. So I was there for 378
When
days.
did Madhubala do that?
36th expedition.
Which-
5 years back.
5 years.
2016, I think. 16 or 15.
So you were in 7 years. She also.
Yeah. In COVID also it happened.
59 years old. COVID was 1 year by junior.
कोविड जैसे सिम्टम्स था पर हमने ऑफिशियली बोला नहीं था कोविड है।
छोड़ के
Movie 128, you've seen, there's a rescue of 8 dogs. Very similar.
Okay.
One picture, but it's not really.
Okay. What? Yeah,